What's up, guys? It's Matt. I'm getting an uproar about it. We are back on the strip at the Venetian today for the 365 200K guarantee. Should be pretty nuts. It's day one Eid, last day. Not sure if I'm gonna be an alternate or what. I'm about an hour late, so hoping to fade that, but let's get after it. All right, so they quoted me like a 3-hour wait to actually get a seat. I'm alternate 150. They're calling alternate like 34 right now. The room's packed. It was nuts. Impressive to see, but part of the reason is that they've given up some of the tournament table space for, you know, other gambling, presumably from when poker was closed. So yeah, it's a little brutal right now. I'm not sure if I want to go find somewhere else to play. Just kind of wander the strip a bit. I think they quoted me a little bit high. I'm sort of a strip noob. I usually just drive to the place I'm gonna go and don't do much walking around. So I gotta figure out like what room's close enough to justify walking to and then walking back. So I'm a little conflicted if I want to play like a short, sweet, like hour-and-a-half session, or just kind of enjoy this gorgeous weather, because it is nuts right now. It's like perfect. It's basically perfect. All right, I'll figure it out. Get back to you. Playing a hand at 400, 800, 800. Very late registered, so I don't have a ton in the stack. Been card head, and I'm down to 17K from, I want to say 20K, maybe 25K starting. I open King 10 of diamonds under the gun to 1.6K. The button and the big blind call, and the flop comes 10-8-5 rainbow. Big blind lead jams for 12K. It's gonna be a very easy it's gonna be a very easy call here, so that's what I do. And he has 5-3 of clubs, so we do have to fade a little bit here. The turn is the deuce of clubs, but no flush draw, and the river is an offsuit 10, so we're gonna scoop that one. Next hand, same blind level, we're at 25K in the stack here, and I open middle position with Jack 8 of hearts to 1.6K. Both of the blinds call, and we go 3 ways to a flop of 10-9 deuce two-tone. The big blind, it's a theme here, the big blind leads 2.5K. We're open-ended here, so very easy call. The small blind also calls. The turn is the deuce of spades, so 2 flush draws now, and it checks to me. With 2 hearts in my hand and a hand that doesn't have any value yet, I'm gonna check this one here and just realize my equity. It's really hard to know which outs are good here, and I think keeping the pot smaller makes sense. So I check behind, and the river is the 10 of diamonds, checks to me, and at this point, it's really hard to put anybody on a hand. Somebody with a 10 usually finds a bet somewhere at some point, and if not, you know, we're just gonna give it to them. So I put out the bet for 11K, and we take it down. All right, bit of audio problems here, so I'm hoping. Whoa, what the hell? All right, I really hope and think that I got the audio sorted. I hope more than I think, but I also think. So getting back into the action here, we're at 600, 1200, 1200, now with 25K in the stack. Obviously, we're sitting pretty short here, but not quite into open jamming territory. Don't need to do that just yet. I open it up with ace-jack offsuit in middle position to 2.5K. The cutoff, who's very loose and pretty active, calls. Flop comes 9-4 deuce rainbow, and I decide to check. He bets 5K, and given that I have 2 overs here, it seems like a pretty easy call versus an active and fairly aggressive player. The turn is the Jack of hearts, and this is a great card, obviously, because now we beat the vast majority of his range, even a lot of the hands that we were losing to on the flop. I check, and he just checks it back. The river is the 4 of clubs, and at this point, I have the best hand most of the time, but he's probably not going to do much of the betting for me. So I decided to put out a bet of 11.5K, and he pretty quickly calls with black pocket 8s. So pretty fortunate turn there, actually, but I think it was a pretty standard hand. This next hand, we're at 1K, 1.5K, 1.5K, 35K in the stack. So again, still in that 20-ish big blind area. There are 3 limpers, and I look down at pocket 4s in the cutoff. Now, what's interesting about this spot is that it's very different from the previous spot. In the previous one, if we open jammed, we could only stand to win, 2 to 2.5 blinds if everybody folds. But here, with 3 limpers, we're looking at increasing our stack by right around 20% here. So I decided to rip it. I think this is pretty okay. Most of the players in front of us will never have a calling range, and there's only a few players behind who could wake up with a big hand. However, the small blind calls without asking for a count. So right away, pretty worried, and it folds around, and he, of course, has the aces. The board is just completely full of bricks, devoid of anything resembling a 4, resembling cards around a 4, resembling any of the suits that I might want. Actually, I think he had suits covered as well. So pretty hard to win this one. We do not win it, and I'm in for a second bullet. Now, a lot of times I won't enter a tournament like this for a second time on a second bullet unless it's with quite a bit of blinds left behind. This is an exception that I'm going to make because it's a fairly fast structure. And so coming in with 20, 25 blinds, it's actually not as big of a disadvantage as it would be in some other formats. It's so quick that a lot of the players are around that stack anyway. And one double basically puts me back in it. So I decided to go back in there. We are lined up with 30K and ready to go. This hand is at the same blind level, 1.5K big blind, and I open it up in the low jack to 3K with king jack offsuit. The big blind's the only caller, so we go heads up to the flop, which is ace high, ace 8 deuce, two-tone. He checks. I go for a pretty standard c-bet here of 2.5K, and he makes the call. He turns to queen of diamonds, and he checks. I think that this is a card where we can definitely apply some pressure. We do still only have king high here, but we pick up a gutter, and it's also one of those spots where we're going to be able to apply a lot of pressure potentially across 3 streets. So I put in the c-bet for 6K. He jams though. And given that he covers me and it's a fair bit more still, we don't really have much choice here with just the gut shot and king high. We're going to have to fold. Next hand, down to 15.5K, courtesy of that previous hand. So there's a limp, button ISOs to 4K, and I'm in small blind with king, queen, offsuit. I decided to rip it here. We're pretty short at this point, and I think that button can definitely ISO with a lot of weaker holdings, and he'll have a lot of pocket pairs that we're flipping with as well. Folds around to the button, who has, big surprise, aces. In fact, it's the same aces from the previous bust out. But the board does come out with a king on it, king 8-3, so the hope is alive here. Turn is an 8, which is a pretty bad card. It eliminates the queen as a possible out, as he already has a better 2 pair than we could make. I'm out of my chair, doing the safety dance, trying to get out of there. No goodbyes. 1 foot out the door, and the river king hits us. Basically knocks us back down into the chair. And, I'm 2 for 2 here in the safety dance. So, yeah, we might have to keep it rolling. We might have to keep using the safety dance. This next hand, I've got 46K, and I open queen 9 of hearts in middle position. The cutoff calls, so we go heads up to a flop, which is 9 high, 9-7-3. I decided to go for a check raise here. We have one of the better 9s that we'll have in this spot, and it's a pretty connected board with a stack depth that is kind of tricky to navigate. I actually think that check raising is probably a mistake, but it was what I decided to do at the time. So I go for the check. He bets 3K, and I stick with the plan, and I make it 14K, seeing as he made it pretty darn small. I believe my open was to like 3.5K here. So we're able to put the check raise in, and he jams. So sort of not what you want to see when you check raise here. You're sort of hoping for the call and then just jam like basically every turn. But he goes for the jam, and I call it off, and he's got the red 10s. However, no safety dance this time as I'm not covered, but I must have had some good mojo rolling from the last one because the turn's the 9 of clubs, and the river is the deuce of spades. So we get to scoop it there. Yeah, I feel a little sheepish about that one. In this next hand, 96K in the stack, I open the button to 4K with 5 deuce of spades, and the flop comes queen 8-3, all spades. He checks, I bet 3.5K, and he makes the call. Turn is the Actually, I don't even know if I said this, but the big blind is the caller. The turn is 8 of diamonds. He checks, and I just jam for his 18k remaining. He snaps with the 10-8 off, and the river's a 7 of diamonds. So we get to scoop it there. Pretty fortunate, and obviously he had some outs going for him by the turn. But yeah, nice to get that action. This next hand, we're at 1.5k, 2.5k, 2.5k big blind, 130k in the stack. Cutoff is a short stack and opens to 5.5k. I flatten the big blind with king 10 off, and the flop comes 8, 8, 7. I check it, and he just checks it back. The turn is a 9 of hearts, and I now decide to bet because I've got the hearts, I've got any jack, any 6 gives me a straight, and I still have 2 overs here. He's also going to have a lot of folds when he checks back this board. So I bet 8k, and he jams for 23.5k. With the price I'm getting, it's going to be pretty hard to fold here. I just think we're in too good of shape too often. We have so many outs usually against most of his range, even his slow plays on flop. And a lot of his really big slow plays on flop won't even jam turn. They'll just call, like boats, even trips. I feel like if it's slow playing, may well just call here. But turns out I'm wrong, because I put in the call, flick it in there, and he somehow has ace 10 of hearts to just have us like basically stone dead. We are stone dead. Even if he didn't have ace 10 of hearts, we'd be in debt. If he just had the ace of hearts, we'd be in really bad shape still. The river's a brick, not that it matters, and we ship that one over to him. 110k in the stack now. I open the cutoff with pocket jacks to 5.5k. Big blind is the only caller. We go heads up to flop of 7-6-5 two-tone, and he lead jams for 25k. Pretty easy call, and it turns out he has 6-5 of clubs. So they're really crushing it with the leads here. They're really crushing me with these weird raises with super invulnerable hands. But the turn is just a jack. So we get super lucky once again. The river's a 7 of hearts though, so we actually would have gotten lucky on that one and river to better 2 pair. But yeah, either way, kind of sheepish, kind of just luck boxing my way through this one here. This next hand, we are at 1.5k, 3k, 3k, 170k in the stack, and under the gun makes it 7k. The button now jams for 62k, about 21 bigs, and I'm in the big blind with red pocket kings. You just love to see it. Such a great spot because at these stack depths, nobody really has to have a massive hand. We just destroyed the vast majority of his range. I obviously make the rejam at this stack depth with red kings, and under the gun folds. We're heads up against the button who has ace, king, off. Good shape, but it's not over yet. The flop comes queen 10 deuce. Turn is a somewhat irrelevant king. I guess he can't hit an ace now, but he can still hit the jack for a gutter to Broadway. And the river is the 4 of diamonds, beautiful 4 of diamonds, brick. So we get to snap that one up, and our next hand is played at 2k, 4k, 4k with 230k in the stack. A lady who's been sort of sizing up a lot and making a lot of sort of weird leads. Once was basically for pot into a preflop aggressor when she had second pair. She opens early position to 16k. I call in the cutoff with ace jack of spades, deciding not to 3-bet this one given how weird she's playing. I'm just going to play it a little slow. Flop comes out 10-7-6 with 1 spade. She checks, and I put out a bet of 16k. The turn is a deuce of spades, and she decides to lead for 16k. So unclear if she's trying to set her price. Unclear exactly what's happening here, but I think that we have a couple of options here. We can definitely raise, we can definitely call. When we pick up the flush draw and have 2 overs, our hand is still going to be good sometimes. So I decide to just call here. The river's a 9 of diamonds, and she checks. Now, it's very clear she doesn't want to face a bet just based on everything that's happened so far and how she looks and on all this. So I decide that instead of checking back and maybe having some showdown value here, I probably don't have showdown value. So I decide to put out a bet of 58k, and she folds. So we pick that one up. This next hand, we have 310k in the stack. Early position raises to 8k, and I'm on the button with ace 10 off. Make the call and go heads up to a flop once again, jack 9 deuce rainbow. They check, and I don't think we need to bet this good of an ace high for any kind of like protection. I don't think we need to bet it, as a bluff. I check it back. Turns to 10 of clubs, so we make a pair, and I call a bet of 12k. River's a 6. They check, and I don't think we're really targeting much here if we bet, so I check it back, and they show us king jack for a
pretty slowly played hand, but that's going to be good for the pot, and we ship that one over to him. Next hand, 230k in the stack. I open in the hijack with ace-8 off and make it 12k. Small blind, who's been active and 3-betting a fair bit, makes it 32k. We're about 25 off the money with about 125 left in the player field. And I think that this is a good moment where we can apply some pressure. He's sort of trying to apply pressure himself, but we're very close in chips, and I can just really put him in a tough spot by 4-betting here. I also don't actually have to go all in, which is the nice thing about being at the stack depth. Even though he's made it fairly large at 32k, I can 4-bet pretty small and still have fold equity. So I 4-bet to 70k, and he hems and haws for a while, but does ultimately fold. I show the 8 of diamonds, which in retrospect was probably not the right moment to show. I probably wanted to maintain some fold equity leading into the bubble, but at the time it seemed like a really good idea. And that's when Matt's ego takes control. In this next hand, there are 96 players left, 260k in the stack, and MP raises to 17k. The hijack calls, and I'm on the button with king 8 of hearts. I choose to 3-bet here and apply some more pressure, and I go to 57k. Middle position calls, and the flop comes ace 8-5 with 2 hearts. Excellent board for us, obviously. I choose to c-bet 45k. He has roughly 160k behind, and so I'm just committed at this point. If he does go for the jam, it's a little bit unfortunate. We'll have to probably be effectively flipping here, but in obviously not bad shape almost ever. But I just get it done, and we get that fold through. Not a lot of interesting hands happen. We do make the money, and this next hand is played with 60 players left. 5k, 10k, 10k blinds, 280k in the stack. Early position makes it 220k off of his 250k stack, and I'm brand new to this table. They've been breaking tables like mad. There's just not a lot of tables remaining of the field. And so when he does this, you know, it's like one of these spots where he's saying he has a sort of middling strength hand. He's saying he has like 6s through jacks, you know, maybe like ace king, ace queen, ace jack suited, hands like this where people are sort of afraid of, you know, not winning the pot, or they're afraid of like committing some chips and getting screwed and things like this. So mostly I'm just gonna be folding here. You know, I'm in middle position, and so there's a lot of players left to act behind me. Don't really want to get into a bad spot. However, I wake up with ace king off, and this is just gonna be a standard rejam at my depth. I go for it, 280k all in. Folds around, and he snaps, and he just somehow has pocket king. So like, I don't know if you could see my cards. I don't know what the deal was here, but he makes the play that maximally exploits my exact holding. I would lean towards saying accidentally he does this, but you know, it is what it is. The board rolls out with a little bit of hope. Queen 10x, king, and if you remember this from a previous hand where I had the kings against ace kings, actually a very similar board. River here was also a brick, so that one's going to do it. That one's going to knock us way down. He had 250k, we had 280k, so just 30k left with 10k big blind, and 3 hands later, I'm under the gun with jack 8 offsuit, and I rip my 38k remaining. There's a rejam for 150k by the cutoff. Always have to chuckle at that one. And he's got king jack off, so I really wish he had the king queen here or something else that we were in a little bit of better shape, but it could not be. Board rolls out, queen 7-3, jack just for a little bit of needle, and 10. So I'm out in 58th. I did make a pay jump or 2, and I believe I was the very first player who was paid over $700. And so in this 365 that I threw 2 bullets into, cashed for $715 for a profit of minus, what is that, $15? I lost $15. So yeah, I guess that paid for my gas money to get to and from the Venetian, but that's a rough one to lose. We're going to be out of the tournament. If you like this video, please like, subscribe, share it with a friend. I'm really trying to get on this video grind. I'm trying to hit you guys more. Keep your eyes peeled for some more content. Soon we're going to have a lot more live footage at the table. Meetup games, all this kind of stuff is coming. So excited to share it with you, and I'll see you all in another video.